The cabin lights dimmed as the plane soared through the night sky. Passengers groaned, exhausted, when a child's heartbreaking cry echoed through the silence. Everyone turned annoyed, impatient, but one woman unbuckled her seatbelt and walked toward the sound. Her gentle voice rose, trembling at first, then stronger, singing a lullaby that wrapped the air in calm. The crying stopped. The child's small head rested peacefully on her shoulder. But what she didn't know was that the man watching her, eyes tired, heart shattered from loss, was one of the richest men in the world, and her voice was about to change his life forever. Amara had always hated flying, not because of heights, but because planes were full of people pretending not to feel. Everyone buried in screens, noise-canceling the world away. But tonight's flight from New York to London felt different. Maybe it was the exhaustion in her bones after another failed job interview, or maybe it was the empty ring mark still visible on her finger, a memory she was trying hard to forget. She just wanted peace. Sleep. Silence. Then came the cry. A wailing, aching, inconsolable cry from a small child seated a few rows ahead. The kind of cry that carried pain, confusion, loss. People began muttering, an older woman sighed dramatically, a businessman rolled his eyes. Amara glanced up and saw a little boy no older than 4, his face red, tears spilling down, clutching a small stuffed bear. Beside him sat a man tall, sharply dressed in a dark suit, though his eyes looked hollow, lifeless. He whispered something to the child, but the boy screamed louder, shaking his head. The man ran a tired hand through his hair, clearly overwhelmed. Something inside Amara stirred. Without thinking, she stood, took a deep breath, and walked over. "Excuse me," she said softly, "may I try something?" The man looked up, startled. I'm sorry, he hasn't slept. He misses his mother." His voice cracked on the last word. Amara nodded gently. "It's okay. May I?" The man hesitated, then nodded. She knelt beside the seat, her eyes meeting the little boy's. "Hey, sweetheart," she whispered. "Can I sing you something my mama used to sing to me?" The boy sniffled, still clutching his bear. She smiled a small, warm, genuine smile, and began. "Hush, little heart, don't you cry. The stars are watching from the sky. Close your eyes, my love so true. The world is safe, I'm here with you." The cabin grew silent. Even the flight attendants paused. Her voice was soft, pure, trembling with emotion, a lullaby wrapped in sorrow and care. Slowly, the boy's sobs faded. His eyes fluttered shut, his small hand still clutching her sleeve. Within minutes, he was asleep. When Amara looked up, the man was staring at her, eyes glistening. "Thank you," he whispered hoarsely. "You have no idea how much that means." She smiled faintly. "Every child needs a little comfort sometimes." She stood to return to her seat, but he stopped her. "I'm Ethan," he said quietly. "Ethan Vale." She didn't realize then that Ethan Vale was the Ethan Vale, CEO of Vale Industries, a billionaire widower known to the world as ruthless, cold, untouchable. But sitting there, with his sleeping son against his chest, he looked nothing like the headlines. He looked human. Broken, even. And though they were strangers in the sky, something in that moment connected them, two souls both haunted by loss, both searching for peace in a world that never seemed to offer it. The next morning, when the plane landed in London, Amara didn't expect to see him again. She gathered her small bag, ready to fade back into the blur of city life. But as she exited the gate, a familiar voice called behind her. "Miss Amara, right?" She turned. Ethan stood there, his son in his arms, the little boy now wide awake, smiling shyly. "You didn't tell me your name last night," he said. "I had to ask the flight attendant." Amara smiled awkwardly. "I didn't think it mattered." "It does to me," he said softly. "You helped my son when I couldn't." He shifted, lowering his voice. "Since his mother passed, he hasn't let anyone comfort him. You were the first." Her heart ached at his words. "I'm sorry. That must have been hard." He nodded. "It still is." Then, after a pause, "Can I thank you properly? Maybe breakfast?" Amara hesitated, her instincts said no, but something about the look in his eyes made her stay. At a small cafe near Heathrow, they talked about life, loss, music, and how sometimes strangers understood you more than the people closest to you. She learned Ethan's wife had died 2 years ago from cancer. Since then, his life had been meetings, boardrooms, silence. His son, Oliver, had barely spoken in months. But that morning, Oliver giggled for the first time. He tugged Amara's hand, asking her to sing again. And when she did, Ethan just listened, every note peeling away a layer of grief he thought would never leave. Days turned into weeks. Ethan found excuses to see her again, to thank her, though both knew it was more than that. He admired her humility, her warmth. She admired his hidden gentleness beneath the armor of wealth. But love doesn't come easy to the wounded. When tabloids spotted them together, headlines screamed, "Billionaire Ethan Vale's new love interest, mystery woman revealed." Amara panicked. She wasn't ready to be judged, dissected by the world for who she loved. "I can't live like this, Ethan," she cried one night. "I'm not part of your world." Ethan's voice broke. "Amara, you are my world. You gave me and my son back our peace, you're the reason I smile again." Tears filled her eyes. "Then promise me one thing. No matter how much money, how many headlines, never forget what started all this." A song for a child. A lullaby of love. He took her hands. "I could never forget." A year later, Amara stood backstage at a children's hospital fundraiser, her first public performance. She sang the same lullaby under soft lights, her voice steady, healing. In the front row, Ethan and little Oliver watched proudly, tears shining in their eyes. When she finished, the audience rose in applause. Ethan whispered to his son, "That song saved us, didn't it?" Oliver nodded sleepily. "Daddy, she's our angel." Ethan smiled, and for the first time since his wife's passing, his heart felt whole again. Because sometimes, love doesn't begin with grand gestures or perfect timing. Sometimes, it begins with a lullaby and a stranger's voice in the quiet sky.